Welcome to episode 2 of the Dan Cloutier community. I am thrilled to be with you today. This is a show where I get the privilege to interview amazing artists of all type as we dig into the idea that art builds community and that art can help this hurting world. Simply put, the theme of the show is that the more of us making art, the better we all are. We currently live in an age of distraction and solitude. The Surgeon General even stated that we are currently in an epidemic of loneliness. Over the summer, I started to put my phone and watch away when I got home from work to help me focus on what is really important, and I want you to know that during the show, you have my full attention. So here we go, let's do that. As I look at the world, I think one of the most important responses to these isolating times is human creativity and connection. Not only does art make the world a better place, but I believe that each of us is an artist with a distinct voice that needs to be heard. That's right, you are an artist. Art is also not just one thing. You can show your creativity through things like songwriting and painting, poetry, sculpting, theater, film, photography, all the famous things, but also things like gardening, building, computer coding, cooking, sewing, maybe even making fishing lures, and so much more. At the end of today's show, I want to share a song on a very special guitar, but first we need to get to our guest. Today on the show, we have my good friend and brilliant songwriter, Erin Sullivan. Erin's won numerous songwriting awards and tours all around the East Coast. I had the privilege of meeting her just as she was starting her current career at a local open mic that I was hosting. And I knew from the first song I ever heard her sing that she had a special gift. And it's been wonderful to see her blossom into one of New England's most brilliant songwriters. Let's go talk to Erin, everyone. Welcome to my show. It's so good to have you here on the Dan Cloutier community.
Thank you so much for having me.
How are you doing today?
I am doing great. I've been looking forward to this for a while.
Excellent. So you need to tell my community about yourself, who you are, what you do.
So my name is Erin Sullivan, and I am a singer-songwriter. And I did a lot of music in my 20s and then stopped because I was focusing on my family and my work as an educator. And then once my kids got a little bit older, about 5 years ago, I decided to jump back in the pool, and it's been an adventure ever since.
Well, I've been so thrilled to see you grow. I met Erin at an open mic that I hosted. We were just talking about, because I hosted different open mics, but at the Burn in Somerville, I had the privilege of hosting right before COVID. And so the first one you came to was March 4th.
Yes.
Because that was it, March 4th, 2020, which is, everyone can know that's an important date. And we ran an open mic. We thought we were going to have many more open mics. So that's when you came to the open mic, and that's when we met, right?
Yep, exactly.
It's amazing. And I remember that time. So then in April came and May came and the world shut down, and we did some virtual open mics, and I had a songwriting prompt, and you wrote this beautiful song about spring.
Yes.
And that song about spring ended up making on your first album, right?
Yeah, it did. It did. And it was kind of perfect timing because I was looking for excuses to write music, and I was really motivated by the spring prompt. And my daughter was home over the, we'll call it a break. Mm-hmm. And I wrote the song, and it sort of lent itself perfectly to harmony, and she was there. And so for me, even though there were so many horrible, horrible things about that time, that was such a bright spot. And it was kind of the first time that she was willing to do music with me as an adult, because, when she was tiny, we would sing together all the time. And then there were the teenage years where that was not
I'm in the middle of that now.
Yep. And so, being trapped at home during COVID, that was actually a moment where we started making music together again, and that was really joyful.
So I remember when I did that prompt, it was interesting because I think as myself, I really struggled to find creativity during COVID. I remember the world shutting down and me being like, this is great. I have all this free time. I'm going to be so creative. And I was writing a novel at the time. It was a really dark novel. And I had to stop because it was too dark. And I thought I was going to write all these songs. And I wrote a spring song. And then I didn't write anything for like a year.
Wow.
But I remember vividly your spring song because it was so happy, and then your daughter and harmonies. So anyways, everyone who's listening, go on YouTube, Erin Sullivan. What's the name of the song?
It's called Spring Come Running.
Spring Come Running. It's a great video. And imagine when you watch the video, imagine the time and the joy that still came out of that darkness. Interesting place to start the conversation. That's where I thought it was going to go. But I want to go back to your beginning. So, you have such an interesting story in your 20s that we're going to get to. But why did you decide to write songs? What was the spark? What was the inspiration?
I have grown up in a family of creatives. My mom is a graphic designer. My stepdad is a writer. And my grandmother was a singer. And so there was always an assumption and an expectation that you would be a creative person. And I loved performing, and I performed a cappella through college. And then once I hit my 20s, I realized that if I wanted to be performing out in the world, I wasn't going to be doing it as musical theater. So I needed to create my own content. And so that was kind of the jump.
So in college, you're doing a cappella and all that stuff?
Yeah.
What was the name of the group? Because they have epic names.
So we were the Amherst College Sobrinas. And so that's actually where I met Amy Spees, because she also went to college with me, and we sang in the same a cappella group.
So Erin, tell the great story about you in your 20s, because you almost had this big folk career.
Almost. I sure did.
That didn't happen.
I sure did. So what happened was I graduated from college. Amy had graduated from college. We were both living in New York City. We met up for coffee. I said, guess what? I wrote my first song. And she said, guess what? I did too. And so we shared songs, and we decided to do a few gigs as a duo and singing harmonies on each other's songs, because we had done this a cappella before, and ended up writing an album's worth of songs and recording an album and playing a lot of shows and getting label interest. It was the early 90s, where being a female folk duo was actually a thing that was considered viable.
A beautiful thing.
It was a beautiful thing. And so we had finished this album, and we were getting very excited for our big record release show at the Bitter End, and there were industry people coming.
Very famous place, the Bitter End.
Yeah, yes. It was a whole moment. Simultaneously, I was pregnant and had my daughter Emma, and then there was this day during the summer when Emma was newly born, and I'd had sort of a classic new parent day of, walking her around the park and changing her 5 gazillion times, and finally getting her down to bed at 7:30, and I was exhausted and relaxing. And at that point, the phone rang, and I picked up the phone. And I said, hello, and it was Amy. And she said, Erin, where are you? And I said, I'm at home. Where are you? And she said, I am at the Bitter End, getting ready for our record release show. Mm-hmm. And I had, with my new baby brain, completely forgotten to show up at our record release show.
It's an amazing story.
It is. And what's even more amazing is that we are friends still. And I take full credit for the launch of her incredibly successful solo career.
Well, for those who don't know, Amy's very successful singer-songwriter since that time, basically.
Yeah, right? Yeah. She has made her life as a singer-songwriter.
So were you guys still close during that time? Because you obviously came back to songwriting. The other part of the story is that Erin comes back to songwriting just 5 or 6 years ago after her kids are grown, which I just adore. But were you close to Amy that whole time? We
definitely had a little bit of a break.
Sure.
And I had ended up moving out to Los Angeles for a bunch of years. And so it was we reconnected over the years, but it really was probably a good 10 years before we actually had some big, meaningful conversations that set us on a good path. But I'm really grateful. She's a dear friend of mine, and also a mentor. She's been so supportive of me kind of re-entering the folk world, and I feel like I've got my personal Yoda.
That's beautiful.
I can call her up and get advice.
That's beautiful. And there's nothing wrong with, you're a new mom, and it's just so hard. It's such, I have 2 kids. My son's 13, and my daughter's about to turn 12, which is wild. Mm-hmm. And my daughter's now taller than my wife. But when COVID struck, the kids were just beginning to get old enough, and in the past year, I'm finally doing music again, really. And there was 5 years I didn't because it's just, it's
really emblematic
hard.
Of what we all deal with as performers anyway, because there's 0.1% of 1% who can actually make a living doing this. So it means that we're all juggling all the things all the time. And even if you're blessed enough to just do music, you are your own manager often, and your booker, and your tour organizer, and your merch handler. So it's a lot of plates to be juggling simultaneously, or spinning. Do you spin plates?
You can do both.
Okay.
You can juggle and spin plates, but it's and especially when you have a family, it's just I can imagine myself making enough money in music to get by myself if I was living in a cheap apartment. and probably being kind of content, but
Right.
like no, so it's just a different game with the kids. So in those years that came, because you have a wonderful family, and did you feel guilt that you didn't do it? Like, how did that play in your own mind?
Oh, that's so interesting.
I'm more asking this because I've walked not
Yeah.
the same story, but like it's just as a parent, it's
I went in
interesting.
and out. I mean, there were definitely years where I literally never picked up the guitar, and it just collected dust, and the strings didn't get changed. And on the rare occasion that I would pick up the guitar, there'd be a chorus of "no" from the kids. So I just
The kids didn't want to hear the guitar?
no, not for me. So I just didn't, and it was easily 20 years before I even picked up a guitar to play again. So I was super rusty, and in many ways I felt like a rank beginner.
So let's go back to that time when you decided to pick it up again, because so I met you in 2020.
Yeah.
So we're talking over 5 years now. And when I first heard you at the Burren,
Yeah.
it was like, oh, she's really great. Because you meet somebody for the first time, like, this is a new person, and then like, oh, she's been doing this for a long time, or she has the gift of writing, right? Like, because you write these beautiful songs about characters, and you take objects and you make them human and stuff like that. That's really one of Erin's gifts. But how new were you at that point? Because at that point, I could tell like this person's really gifted.
Yeah. So maybe it had been 2 years by the time I got to
2 years, okay.
to 2020 that I had started writing again.
It'd been interesting if it was only like 3 months.
No. Yeah, and so I did that, and then I did a couple programs that just kind of jump-started me. Are you familiar with February Album Writing Month?
Oh, yeah. Explain it to my audience,
Okay,
because this
so
is a really cool concept.
February Album Writing Month is awesome. If you go to fawm.org, you can learn all about it yourself.
It's awesome and terrifying.
It
as
is,
a writer.
right.
Yeah.
So the premise is you write 14 songs in 28 days, and the whole goal is to get out of your own way and not second guess yourself. And there's this really wonderful, supportive online community. So you upload your songs as you go, and they can be beautifully produced, or you can be singing them into your iPhone. But the point is to just get the ideas out there and on the page. And for me, that has been and continues to be the single most effective way to get me to write. I need the deadline, and like there's something about February where everybody's hibernating anyway.
Yep.
It's just awesome.
So you still do that every year? Because I've never done it, mostly because I feel like it's one of those things that I should do, but I haven't done. But I probably will do. But I also love it because I love listening to my friends who have done it, because
Right.
sometimes they'll be like, the song's not good, but they had to get it done. It's your deadline, right?
Yeah.
So and that's part of the thing. It's forcing you to create art. But those moments of forcing, when you're not really happy with what's happening and you haven't edited it, so sometimes that's where like the most beautiful sparks of inspiration are coming from.
Yeah, and by the time you get to song 12 or 13, you're desperate for a new idea, and that's when you get loopy, and you're like, oh, I think I'll write a song about a farm, right? So you, I mean, both the songs I'm going to do today are songs that I wrote for February Album Writing Month.
So do you edit them afterwards though too? Like a new song that you write in
Yes.
February.
Sometimes
write
I
in 2
do,
days.
and sometimes they just kind of. I mean, my writing process is I edit as I go. So oftentimes I'm pretty close, but yes, for sure, I would say a lot of them are edited.
So starting February songwriting, doing that practice about 7 years ago, and then like it's kind of jumped you into doing it. So what was your first step before you get back? Because pretty soon we're going to have you sing some songs,
Yep.
but what were the first places you came back to? Because now you're touring up and down, you're gigging all over the place.
Yep.
We're going to be playing a show soon that is going to be post when this thing is done together. But
Yep.
like what was those first steps back into it?
So this is my opportunity to say how awesome the open mic community in Massachusetts is, and it really
It
is
is, yeah.
incredible. So my first open mic back was John Frullo's PCA open
Yeah,
mic
I
in
love
Westford.
John. I love the PCA, yep.
And such an incredible welcoming community. And
So the PCA Open Mic, Westford, Massachusetts. It's on Sundays.
it's every other Sunday.
Yep.
And
Highly recommended.
yeah, I cannot recommend the open mic community enough. It's such a great way to get out there and practice performing in a completely safe space. And also you do want to bring your A game, because these are other songwriters who care about good music. And even now when I have the time, I will go to the open mics whenever I can, because there's always a new song that I want to test, and that is the best possible place to test it out. So that one, and then Mark Stepikoff does his TCAN open mic in Natick, which is
the
amazing.
Natick Center for the Arts. That's Tuesday, and it's once a month.
Yep. And then Rich Albert does the Loma open mic in Lincoln. So, and I don't know if you remember, do you remember Snake?
I do remember Snake well.
Yeah. And so
he came to my open mic for years.
Yeah.
He was a great, Eric was his name, but Snake, he was this great.
He's a legend.
And he was in a really famous band in the 60s, but it's not in my a local
It'll
band.
come to me later.
It'll come to me, but just legendary open mic guy.
Yeah.
Who subsequently has passed, but.
Yeah, but I was always amazed because he had a spreadsheet and he was literally at an open mic every night in New England. And that's the thing is if that's a form of expression that is important to you, your people are out there. And I think, again, it's such a great way of building community. And this many years in, I feel like those are some of my closest friends at this point.
Yeah, so like I had the privilege of hosting open mics for 15 years, and it was the last one, the Burn. I only hosted like 4 Burn open mics before COVID shut it down. But like even like this Friday, I'm going out to dinner with my wife, and then 4 friends I met with the open mic world. We're not talking music, we're just friends, because it's not just that the art is important, and it's beautiful to be an artist, and there's benefits to art, right? But the idea of this show is really about how not only does art give to other people, but it also gives to you, right? The people that you run into, the people that friendships that you make and stuff like that. So that's a beautiful story, Erin. I love that. Nice. So simple open mic, and then back to that, and then all of a sudden you're gigging and winning awards and doing all the stuff.
Yeah. I mean, I would say that if the formula for me was do a ton of open mics and enter a lot of songwriting contests and then show up at a lot of learning opportunities, because that's how you meet other artists and you're struggling together, and that's how you make the friends.
So speaking of good music and good art, I think I need to hear a couple songs.
Okay, let's do it.
All right.
I'm ready.
Sister coming over, bonfire set about behind the barn. Father throwing corn cobs on the fire, saying that's the best he's had this year. Cousins playing tag among the fireflies as the night came cool. Last weekend, there would be no more corn at Willard's stand. First time in 14 generations, the family would not till wheat. The neighbors wrung their hands and wondered what they could have done to prevent this sorry ending. Every fire and every fertile acre needs a willing child to tend it. We're feeding the fire, following the shadows, chasing the sparks, watching the light go. With every change in season, we know there's never any guarantees. But what comes along, it's left behind. Learn no matter what you do, it isn't always up to you. That's alright. This summer I'll buy corn from the market just a few miles down the street. Dad were here, he'd shake his head and say, it's good, but not as sweet. I wonder in the years to come, what will my daughter and my son take with them from these nights? Just corn cobs One time I stole a book, I'll tell you why. Happened on a warm day in July. I was working one more summer in my tiny college town. The heat curled up my posters and the quiet pulled me down. They said the world would be my oyster when they gave me my degree. I disagreed, didn't know what I'd need. Meanwhile, in the same town round the bend, another arrow wound down to its end. A couple sealed the final boxes going to Goodwill. The rest of their possessions moving with them down the hill. He said, my steps have grown unsteady and your memory's breaking free. She disagreed. She didn't know what she'd need. Now, how do you know if it's an ending or a spark? Oh, give us grace to know the signposts and the marks. Pete and Dottie met before the war. Together they dreamed big and wanted more. Their home became a shrine to all the wonders they would see. Fertile ground for dreamers and for grandkids, that was me. I said to them, you must have known that you were meant to be. They disagreed. They hadn't known what they'd need. Now, how do you know if it's an ending or a spark? Oh, give us grace to know the signposts and the marks. So that day when I felt sorry for myself, I found a thrift shop and my eye fell on an old blue book upon the shelf. I opened up the cover and in writing small and neat, it said December 1940, from your Dottie to my Pete. And though the $2 on the flyleaf was a reasonable fee, I disagreed. For once I knew what I'd need. Now, how do you know if it's an ending or a spark? Oh, give us grace to know the signposts and the marks. The signposts and the marks. One time I stole a book, I'll tell you why.
Erin, thank you so much. What beautiful songs. Thank you for sharing with us. So tell us some more about these songs. Tell us specifically. I'm really interested in the Willard Farm song.
Yep. So I live in the town of Harvard, Mass., which is a tiny town. It's also a right-to-farm community, which means that there are structures in place to help these small family farms continue to thrive. And for the most part, it's been really successful. But there is one family farm in town that's been there forever, and it's the one that my family would go to when I was a kid to go buy corn. And it's been in the same family for 350 years. And finally, 2 years ago, they made the announcement that they'd be closing their doors. So
sad.
I know, it was really sad. And for me, it just prompted a lot of big feelings about just the passage of time, and especially, having been able to move back to the town where I grew up. is sort of accepting that things change, because that's the way life goes, and sometimes you have to say goodbye to things, and that's okay. But it's something you have to adjust to.
You have to adjust to it, but I love the idea of being a local artist, right?
Yeah.
This is the ability of the local artist to express what the community is feeling. So, like people in Harvard. So I grew up in Hopkinton, so this is HCAM.
Yeah.
I work in Hopkinton. I did school outside.
Yeah.
I live in Upton, but I work in Hopkinton, and similar things have happened in this town. And the idea of, the big news stations don't don't talk about when the local farm closes, but the society and the community feels that loss.
Yeah.
It is such a big deal for a local songwriter to come on and tell that story, because that's what we need. Like, we're hungry for news. We're hungry for things that matter to us. It's such a powerful example of how a local artist maybe the song only gets heard in Harvard, right?
Right.
But it's really powerful.
Yeah. Well, and one of the things that I think about a lot is when I first came back to writing, I wanted to write sort of, the big epic songs,
Yeah.
and that's just
We
not
all
the,
do.
That's just not the kind of songwriter I am. I'm a very small songwriter, which is to say I write about what I know from my own life, and my hope is that those small stories, people can sort of take from them what's meaningful.
I would say the stories are only small in the issue of that they deal with things that we all can relate to,
Right.
but they're very human. I mean, like, in terms of like the what you do so well is you take something that is like a book, right? We all have books, but you take something like a book and you make it so personal, and you connect it to family, and you connect it to the story, right? That we all can relate to, and the breadth of humanity is not small, right? And it's really hard. So you take something small and you make it so vastly more important than
Right.
a lot of
well,
things.
and I'm sure you run into this too, that that a song is a keeper when you can be singing a song that is specifically about your own life, and then someone will come up to you at the end of a show and be like, "Oh, I really identified with the song because it speaks to this thing that I'm going through." And those are the moments where you build community, and you're sort of having this shared moment in a room where people are all sort of using your song as a way to connect with each other, which I think is magical.
It's just magical. Yeah. So tell me about some of your other favorite moments as a performer, because I think that's oftentimes you think that performers are just up there for the selfish reason of performing, and I think we can probably all fall into that at times. But there's something so powerful about being in the same space of somebody else, in the audience or as a performer. But you're seeing art together, and the barrier comes down. I remember when COVID started, and I do a lot of music therapy at the respite center where I work, and there was a good year of just music therapy on the computer. But the first time we got back into person, it was like this, I don't know how to describe it, but it was just like this beauty of like this interaction, and it wasn't just me performing for them anymore, and we were interacting together, and just that beauty and stuff like that. And I've seen you a bunch of times in concert, and you just have this wonderful way of connecting with the audience. Do you have any specific stories?
Well, I can think of two short ones. One is just sort of that general sense of how fun it is to read a room, and I do feel like one of the things that I've gotten better at the more that I've been performing is getting into a space and taking the time to actually figure out like who's here with me and what do they need tonight. And sometimes I'll have a carefully crafted set list, and you realize 2 songs in that this is not the way the set is going to go, because there's a feeling in the room, and maybe they want stuff that's more upbeat, or maybe they're ready for the big stories or something. But I find that if you can take that moment and just kind of, it sounds so woo-woo, but if you can really take a moment to listen to what the group is needing.
Yeah, that's beautiful. That's powerful.
And the other thing that is super interesting to me related to that is how many performers I know who are like working in respite care, or who are educators or service providers in some way, because I feel like the superpowers that you need to do those things well are the same superpowers that you need to be a good performer, because it's completely a two-way street when it's working.
That's a beautiful observation.
So there's that, and then like thinking of stories about performing, I think a few of my standout moments have been the moments where I thought I was singing to nobody, which is to say, like, I've done a few brewery gigs where like everybody is drinking the beers and having a great time. And I'm like, okay, so this is a practice session for me because nobody is listening to what I'm doing. And then inevitably I'll sing a song, and then I see somebody in the back who just kind of like gives you the nod, and you realize, oh, there's one person listening. And that also, it makes you realize that you've got to bring it every single time you perform, because you never know who's out there
You
listening.
never know who's out there or who needs it too, right?
Right. Yeah.
Right. One of the powerful things about being a songwriter, I think the way that we both write songs, is that like there's purpose to what we're trying to get across too, right?
Yeah.
We're trying to talk about good in the world and stuff like that. Now, another thing that I wanted to talk to you about is that I know that you and your husband do this really cool ukulele thing. And this is such a wonderful idea of how community comes together.
Yep.
So tell us about this ukulele group that exists.
So Dano is part of the ukulele, my husband Dano Sullivan is part of the Ukulele Union of Boston, and it's basically a consortium of a whole bunch of ukulele groups in the Massachusetts, New Hampshire area. And you would be shocked to know that there are over 1,000 people involved in
That's awesome.
ukulele organizations in one way or another.
I love the ukulele so much. The ukulele sometimes gets a bad rap because
Yes.
it's a relatively simple
Yep.
instrument to play.
Yep.
It's often considered one of the easiest instruments to play, but there's such a beauty to that from my perspective, because it's the introduction. It's the way that some people can get in.
It's the gateway.
It's a
for sure.
gateway. But not only that, but it's a beautiful instrument.
Yes.
On my last album, I actually wrote two of the songs. I wrote two of the songs on ukulele. I mean, eventually I play them on guitar now
Yeah.
because it's easier for me to plug in and stuff like that. But it's a beautiful instrument. Okay, so your husband's doing this.
Yeah, so my husband's doing this, and so he was doing a lot of in-person, leading a lot of in-person groups before the pandemic, and then pandemic, and March 13th was our first Saturday night of the pandemic, and Zoom, do you remember the days when we didn't know what Zoom was?
Oh, yes,
So
very clearly.
I remember I had sort of had some experience with Zoom, and he said, do you think we could do a Zoom for our ukulele group?
So you knew Zoom before March 13th, 2020.
Yes, just barely. But we set up our very first Zoom, and he ran this online ukulele group. And here we are 5 years later, and it's still going strong. And I was telling you earlier, the thing that is fascinating to me about it is there are a ton of online open mics and music performance opportunities, and they're great. And I go to some of them, and it's really rewarding. The thing that is unique about this one is that every week, without fail, there are between 25 and 30 people who show up to listen to 7 or 8 performers. And that ratio is not common in the online open mic
it's
world,
not. It's
because
mostly
most
just
people
performers.
go to perform. But I will brag on behalf of Dano. I think he does such a good job of building community for that 1 hour slot that people are happy to log in and just be sort of part of this wonderful, supportive group of people. And, the range of skill for these performers is huge. There are rank beginners, and there are really, fabulous fingerstyle players, but everyone is there to cheer each other on. And it's a fun night. So I cannot recommend it highly enough.
It's a beautiful thing. So how do people
It's
learn more about this?
Dano's online ukulele show and tell show is the name of it. And if you go to meetup.com, you can search it in Boston, in the Boston area.
Fantastic. I love the idea of, so one of my favorite things about being an open mic host, when I started an open mic host when I was 25, and I did it because I wanted to help my own music career, right? 15 years later, I just love the beginners. Like I remember when, I remember many times somebody would come in and they'd never performed in front of anybody before, right? This is their first time, and I know it's their first time, and I'm watching this person get up on stage and the bravery that takes.
Yeah.
And the fact that I know that this person's having a memory right now that becomes a core memory. I remember my first open mic.
Yep, same.
Like very vividly.
Yes.
And it was in Hopkinton. It was at the old Masonic Hall. And there's something so powerful about the idea of facilitating something like your husband's doing to allow people to come in and have this experience that is going to be lasting with them for decades potentially,
Yeah.
And so you also help out with this though, right?
I am a avid supporter, so I'm going to give Dano full credit for organizing it and making it happen. But there are other sort of ukulele events that he and a couple of his friends organize, and then I help out wherever I can.
But you mentioned me earlier that you also, by being part of this community, has helped your folk in your own singer-songwriter world too, because you've gotten support from them too, right?
Yeah, yes, and they're amazing, and there are some wonderful folks from that group that will come out to my shows regularly, and one of the things that we do is a summer weekend retreat in person up in the mountains of New Hampshire.
Beautiful.
And so there are lots of people from the online group who we meet each other outside of the rectangles, and that's also wonderful.
What was it like the first time in a meetup post-COVID? It had to be...
It's tearful. I mean, I know that you had those moments as well. I mean, I remember my first show that I went to at the Burren that was live. It's sort of in the midst of COVID, and just how emotional it felt to be sharing
beautiful.
music with people live. Yeah.
Yeah, beautiful. Just a couple more questions, Erin, my friend. One of the questions I like to ask is just if you were, I just like this question inherently. It has nothing to do with community anymore, but it has to be, if you were on the desert island, you could only have 5 complete catalogs of musicians.
Oh, dear Lord.
5
Seriously?
complete yeah.
Okay.
So who would they be?
Patty Griffin,
Patty Griffin's a good choice.
John Prine, Joni Mitchell.
I just really like hearing other songwriters answer this question.
Cole Porter.
Cole Porter, nice.
And I need one more. I'm blanking.
Maybe 4. 4 is great.
I'm going to go with 4. Those are my 4.
4 is fantastic. And then I made Tom Smith ask that question too.
Oh, what did he say? Woody Guthrie?
He said Woody, Pete Seeger.
Yep, of course. Yes.
He said Lori McKenna.
Oh, yes, Lori McKenna. She's my number 5 for sure.
Which is interesting because I know you're like...
I'm a huge Lori McKenna fan.
That makes a lot of sense because you
Yes.
like Lori. Anyways, I just love hearing that question. But my last question for you, when you look at the world now, 2025.
Yep.
We're in New England. This podcast and this show might go beyond that someday. But where do you see community growing in art? Like, where do you... It doesn't even have to be in the songwriting world, right? It could be like, do you see like a community garden that is just bringing people together? Do you see a theater group? Is there anything... We mentioned the open mic world.
Yeah. I honestly... Not to harp on the ukulele, but I do feel like people love music, and lots of people love to make music, and lots of people want to make music and are afraid because they feel like you need some magic powers in order to do it. And the thing that is great about the ukulele is that the bar is so low and it's so easy to start. And I feel like there are so many opportunities there for somebody to have very low stakes and enter that world and find community in that way.
That's fantastic, Erin. So tell me a little bit more about yourself coming up. Any last things you want to say?
No, I'm excited to start recording my next album. Album 3. I'm going to be working with Doug Hortler at Hollow Body Studios again. He's
Love Doug.
a
Doug's
magician and another amazing community builder in our music.
He runs a great open mic.
He runs a great open mic in Chelmsford, and also just does a great job of surrounding himself with good people and good musicians who then find ways to work with each other. And I think that is a true gift.
All right. And ErinSullivan.com.
.com.
Thank you so much, Erin, for coming and being my second guest. This was such a great conversation.
So fun.
Thank you.
Thanks again for joining us on the Dan Cloutier community. I hope you were inspired by our conversation to make something new this week. The world would be a better place if we all make art together. Erin is one of New England's best songwriters, and I encourage everyone to go to her website, ErinSullivan.com. This show was put on for free by me and HCAM, and if you like what you heard and you want to support this mission, you can learn more about me and my music at dancloutier.com. Now, we're going to end the show today with a song called Take Your Next Step, but I want to introduce this guitar right here because this guitar was a gift to me from my dear friend Mike Campo. Now, Mike was a gentleman who was about 50 years old, had never performed in front of a crowd before, and he came to the open mic that I was running in Framingham at the Amazing Things Art Center about 10 years ago, and he started coming. And then 6 months later, he picked up his guitar and he started singing. And then years later and years went by, he became a great songwriter and a great performer. He unfortunately passed away, and his wife called me and gifted me this guitar during the pandemic. So this show goes out to Mike and all the people who, even late in life, can come out there and make art. So here we go. 2, 3, 4. None of us have real control. You can't just snap and make it go away. Feel each emotion from your head to toe, yeah. And open your eyes on your darkest days. You take the next step, you take your next step, you take your next step, your good heart story. Take the next step, you take your next step, you take your next step, bring good into the world. You might not know which way to turn. Some days your legs, they just feel like stone. But don't forget, child, all the lessons learned. No, none of us walk this path alone. What are we doing? Just take the next step, you take your next step, you take your next step, your good heart story. Take the next step, you take your next step, you take your next step, bring good into the world. It's worth striving for. It's worth driving towards. All your loved ones, they're worth crying for. It's worth striving for. It's worth driving towards. All your loved ones, they're worth fighting for. Yes, they are. Do-do-do-do, do-do-do. Step, you take your next step in your good heart story. Take the next step, you take your next step, you take your next step, bring good into the world. Thank you everyone so much. And thank you for joining me today. And remember, you are an artist too. I'll see you next month for the next show. Let's build a community, everyone. None of us have real control. You can't just snap and make it go away.